Hello, welcome back to another one. We're on what, match 13 now, I think. Another SOF and Airborne match here, though. I am just using a lot of the SOF infantry at the moment, less of the Airborne. This is a match on Ruda. It's against Korzo, Tushonka, who is nice guy, KY6 AHB, Vulcan HD Gaming, and Kestrel. And on my team we have Gustatore, LDE, Zetrox, and Blitzor, and of course myself. Ruda, another one of those maps that I actually have played before, so I kind of know how it can go, though they've changed the loadout quite a bit, the layout I should say, where they've taken away the far side points that are up at the top of the map from before. Let me start the playback. I think that's fine. It's interesting that that area is still playable, just doesn't have any points there, so I guess you can still flank through it if you want. Good for air transport stuff, I guess. But quite interesting. I mean, back when I played Ruda in the last beta, I would tell the team, don't go to the north side of the map because there's one point there and it's bait. Like, it's not worth spending all your effort up there on that one bit for one VP. Just come and fight over the parts of the map that really matter. So I can see where they brought that point in. So I'm going to go for the middle here. I'm going to go into the woods. I'm getting my taste for, staying in the woods of SOF is a nice, easy way to make sure the infantry stay effective. There's 4 points in this area now, too. The map's been split up. You've got, 5 points on the left there in the city, and then 4 here on the right side. So quite a lot of value in both fights. The city is technically worth a bit more, because there's that extra neutral point, technically. But both pretty impactful parts of the match now. Bringing in some little birds. With all the little 6-man SOF teams, all of the best SOF infantry are 6-man except for Delta. Got some STTs for AA and long-range firepower. Rangers Raws for AT, and Rangers Recon for everything else, really. Everything else. I think I'm going to bring in a Black Hawk as well, yeah. With some Delta Force and 2,500 kilos of supplies. I don't remember everything as always, but hopefully this time my supply drop doesn't end up getting blown up. We'll see. I love the distance on Broken Arrow maps. I love how much speed and logistics matters. I love how much it's not just like, oh, fast unit, like that's a cool fantasy, but like it really does matter. Compared to having something slow like tracked vehicles, it's cool to just like roll out so fast with helicopters like this. And I don't know, you can do the same in a war game, I guess, but just feels great in Broken Arrow. I really click with this game. I really enjoy it. So I was just starting out with a bunch of them. We don't have any jets in the air at the moment, or I haven't sent any up. And it's, something I've been doing that's pretty irresponsible these last few matches now is I'm actually not sending up jets. I'm just focusing on my helicopters, which is not really a good idea. It's not responsible, anyway. It's quite reckless. In this case, I do go ahead and drop my infantry early, though. I think in the past, I probably would have just gone like, let's see, we'll like send in some jets to cover or something. But in this case, I've been around the block enough times to be like, you know what, it's going to take me 1 to 2 minutes extra walk at most if I just heli drop here and just move forward. Yeah, my supplies aren't where I want them. I could probably do this more finesse, more nuanced. But it's kind of the price I pay for not covering my heli transports. I don't want to start losing transports here. So I do just get out and we start walking. With the faster sprint speed on a lot of these SOF squads, we'll be there even quicker. So I'm not too worried. I'm looking to bring in more Rangers, it seems. Bring in even more infantry. To be frank, I've got quite a lot already. I'm not sure I need any more at this early juncture before we even see what the enemy has, but that's the benefit of hindsight. There's lots of things that I've seen through these 3 nights of matches in review that as the weeks stretch on of me uploading these, I just keep going like, oh man, I would do that differently now. Which is good, it's a sign of growth. Again, all these matches I'm releasing, they were all played in the same 3 nights in a row. I'm getting antsy for release. It's only so long I can watch my own mistakes over and over and be like, no, I'm ready to be better. I'm ready to grow, I'm ready to be different. But that was, that's why I wanted to suck up all the recordings I could when they gave us these 3 nights of access. It's like, this is all we're going to have until the game comes out. And, luckily now, it's almost out. We're 2 weeks away. Bringing in some more helicopter drops here. I've got more supplies and some more infantry in one of them. On the right side, it looks like I've got a striker ally. I think that's Guastatore. is moving on the E point after he or someone else has secured D point. There's a yak coming in for the Russians there. We get one stinger shot on it from the STT teams, or the ST teams. That ST team over there, their AA, their stinger ammo is out already. I think the enemy, they were firing at an Su-57, I think, and they didn't hit. It's interesting, because in a comment, Tushonka, nice guy, was saying in the previous video that at the start, that was his Su-57 my Kiowa blob was getting tied up with, and he was saying how he did it on purpose. To try and burn out their ammo to do exactly what happened, where they weren't there to cover the island drop, which is pretty smart, if true. I gotta say, that's definitely a level of mindfulness I'm not really at yet. I see something and I kill it, you know? I see an Su-57, I'm like, I want that dead. I'm not thinking of, like, that part of it. But perhaps in review, if I watch that video again, I could see, oh, look at this. I could see that, maybe it wasn't even firing at me, it was out of ammo. Anyway, look at that there, that's interesting. I briefly skimmed this before I recorded this right now, and I found that moment interesting there, seeing the Rangers Rolls actually miss their first shot on the fast-moving Typhoon, the Russian Jeep there. It's cool. Most of the time, units hit, and I think especially in the older betas of this game, it felt like it was like 100% accuracy even when they were suppressed. So I really like whenever I see the units actually miss, because their accuracy is still very high. Like, it's rare to see a miss like that in this game, I think, unless the unit is panicked or suppressed. When you do see it, it's, oh, hang on. Oh, shit. That's right. Yeah, like I said, I did skim this before I did this review today, so I know the main events that are incoming, like Guastatore's Striker Company. I think it's Guastatore, but whoever it is, my ally's Striker Company there that took the E point and rolled in and sat on it gets completely wiped out by a tactical nuke, which isn't intercepted because none of us have a Patriot system up yet. I want to think it's Guastatore because of them going like, I guess, but I think they were responding to something in voice chat. And unfortunately all of their units are just kind of sitting on the E point there, so it's like a really easy blind fire nuke. I like how the Russian players follow this up with an immediate helo blitz. They're trying to like exploit that. They see a bunch of skulls, or they're just going to go in anyway, they're going to try to like blitz through. It's kind of cheeky. It's very aggressive, and it's quite a bold little play. I like to see it. Unfortunately for them, there isn't really a lot for these helicopters to do, because they fly over all those infantry. And that's kind of it, right? Like, I don't know if they got anything else. They're bringing in the drone now. If the drone had been timed at the same time as the helos, then the drone would have spotted those infantry to get killed by the helicopters. As it is, though, the helicopters actually outpace the drone there, and they don't see all the hidden infantry to shoot. And in the end, they just extend themselves way too far, and we bring in some Eagles here, and my teammate brings in F-16 and an Eagle themselves. We take those helos out, most of them. Now we've got a bit of a 2-on-2 here. Well, 3-on-2, because my teammates are helping 4-on-2, I guess I should say. We pop one of those. Are those MiGs? One, then the other. With our two Eagles. Nice little fight. We like it when we get away with it clean. But I'm not done yet. I see one last helicopter and I want it killed. Here we go. One Sidewinder away. Two Sidewinders away. They're not doing anything. The helo is fine. The whole time I'm microing this, I'm not moving my infantry up either. But that's okay. You know, we don't always have to be clicking. It's fine. You know, I'm in a fine position. Fine enough. With my infantry. I send the wounded eagle back, but I'm like, that fucking helo, I go in for again of another Sidewinder? Nope. And the enemy gets me a man-pads there, I think. Eagle gets taken out. That helicopter slinks off. That just happens sometimes with helicopters. It's a dice roll. Flares are a dice roll. You're going to the flare casino, and sometimes you bust. Sometimes you do not do well against the helicopter flare casino. Sometimes the helicopter flare casino busts, you know, the house loses and the helicopter blows up on the first hit. You know, it's... You never know. But what we do know is you have to go to the casino unless you have an autocannon or something in range. You have to play the missile game, usually, of helicopters. Now that the Eagles are done, I start moving my infantry again. With Guastatore, or I shouldn't say it's Guastatore, I don't know for sure, but with my teammate Striker Company being nuked off of the E point, the Russians have moved in a few units now. You can see a Barbarous there. Now, being as I am the closest of all these infantry, and being as they aren't fighting for G point, I decide I may as well send my special forces in to do what they can against the light amount of resistance they seem to move to. The enemy seems to have moved into the E point, and see if I can take it back. You know, I got a lot of comments on the last one, very, very apt comments, saying, you know, that you could play that one better, or like, you know, what are you doing, like going to the meat grinder of SOF, which I agree. You know, in the review of the video, I was also like, yeah, it was silly in hindsight. And what I'm thinking about at this point with watching these matches, as we get some artillery in there, and we get artillery, look out for the napalm, dodge that, and our Rangers start engaging, is, we'll leave that talk for later, actually. Because right now we've got combat going. Hang on, watch this. We dodged an napalm. Rangers Recon takes the brunt of the fire up at the top of the screen there. But they hold on long enough, because once they're suppressed, they take less damage. All infantry do that, I believe. So then they have enough time to later on pop smoke and sprint away when I catch up to what's going on. I've got my Rangers Raws here, who are just providing a bit of, like, rifle support. But really, you know, you don't want them taking the brunt of the fire there. In an infantry fight, you want your anti-infantry units fighting that. So we send in Delta. We take out that unit. Oh, sorry, we don't take it out yet. We're in the smoke. We don't see it yet. But as soon as Delta comes out of the smoke and gets on top of that grenade launcher team, kills them. You have 2 enemy SPG teams here. The Russian players love to spam these things. They must be really cost-effective because... I mean, they do pretty reasonable damage against light, maybe even medium vehicles, but light vehicles and infantry. And they must be like 50 or 60 points, because Russian players love to just send tons and tons of these things. They seem like a really good unit for them. Anyway, my Delta Force is unfortunately getting slowed to a crawl. People asked, or someone asked me once in the comment, like, how do you stop Delta Force? Or what Russian unit is going to do the best against Delta? And as I said to them, Delta is kind of like a melee unit. They're kind of like the Terminator or like a bear on cocaine or something. Like, you need to stop them at a distance. Which is what you kind of see here, where Delta has smokes, Delta is getting hit by cruise missiles, but they're still coming, just like the Terminator with their legs blown off. They're still coming. They eventually get into the building when sprint cooldowns comes back, but they have been whittled down enough at that point. They've got like 0.1 HP left, and they aren't able to take out the SPG. If they still had their flashbangs, maybe, but they used them on the grenade launcher team before. But that's what you're gonna do with Delta. You just gotta... You've gotta fucking stop them. They're on PCP. You have to stop them before they get too close. But in the end, you know, they've still done a little bit of a job there, you know, scaring off the SPGs and taking out the grenade launcher team. And we should be able to move in the rest of our infantry, dislodge those SPGs if they're not already killed by the artillery there, I think, and then keep moving up, getting ready to have another little fight here. But in between, what I'll say before we get into the next fight, well, we are in the next fight, but we're just mopping up igloos, is... Oh, that truck is taken out. Anyway, I realized that something I need to be looking at is not just, oh, here's a mistake I made in micro or strategy in the game. You know, oh, I won't do that in the future, because I will. I'll always forget to do it again. But I need to start looking at ways to not make mistakes rather than the mistakes themselves. I've been thinking about, like, you know, catchy things I can remember in my head. I'm bringing in a Lancer Strike here. Like, you know, from that last video, I was thinking to myself, a good, easy one to remember is ask why or die. You know, like, ask why you're doing a thing, or people are going to die, basically. Get that sticky note that says why on it. And another thing I realized is, it probably pays a lot to milsim a bit in this game. Now, hear me out, because, hang on, that bombing run isn't going to do a whole lot, unfortunately. We get, like, one unit, the others kind of narrowly avoid being hit, and we lose the Lancer, so not a good bombing run. Basically, we'll come back to the milsim thing in a second. It's going to be the longest run on thought, because I want to watch this fight as well. Remind Beagle, talk about the milsim thing in a second. First of all, we're using Rangers Roars Unleashing. We take out that tank. I'm trying to hit like that supply dump with the Rangers Recon, but I think the smoke is blocking me. I'm not able to hit it. I want to blow it up. Rangers Roars then end up fighting these Black Berets along with another Rangers unit down south, taking it and the other Black Beret unit out pretty easily. Rangers Recon is moving up. I'm still trying to hit that supply dump. I want to pop it off. I want to blow up that Doversteyr, but for no lack of trying, I wasn't able to hit it there. Maybe if I attacked grounded, it might have worked. I don't know. Might have shot through the smoke. Now, I end up running away here, and that's because I've been getting cruise missile and napalmed constantly. Sure enough, not, you know, 10 seconds after I've moved from those trees, you can actually see that cruise missile helicopters over there just sitting there. You can actually see the napalm artillery too, really close to the front. You mark the hell out of it, because that's what they're trying to use to kill me. Good thing here, though, is if you stay on your feet with infantry, it's a bit like World in Conflict in that sense. Fire support isn't enough to kill you. If you sit still, and you catch one 5 support strike, you know, you're fucked. Like, the balance of danger there is very thin, like, the margin is very thin. But if you stay mobile, if you don't sit in one place to be bombed, you know, the enemy can send all the artillery and cruise missiles and napalm and shit that they want at you. It won't stop you until they actually send real units to stop you that can account for you moving around and slipping away in the woods. So, very important to stay on the move. Huge amount of helicopters coming in again. They've really been going helo heavy, but not very heavy on the ground, to be honest. That's why my SOF infantry have been able to take things out. And then meanwhile, on the back here, we've got the enemy doing, like, some cutesy stuff with a whole bunch of, like, recon and special forces in our back line. Which is right next to our, like, our MSR, our main service road, our reinforcement route, to put it in non-nerd terms, into the city for the rest of my team. So I decided I'm going to come over and help out with this. They've like, airdropped in a little BRM 3K recon IFV there, which is cute. With the autocannon, it actually takes me out there. Nasty little thing. I've put a recon drone in the air here to try and spot all of the problems. You got 6 SOF squads, if you want to include the Verbers with them, the AA teams. So my boy wants some food. And, you know, what are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to do this first. This is going to be the start of our solution. Because they're all nice and clustered, so this should do some work. Manpads will take out helicopters, but they'll struggle to stop a bomb strike or even really punish it a lot of the time. As I keep saying, these Strike Eagles are loaded with both cluster and HE. Now, the cluster doesn't do a lot to infantry, but it's just a combined load so that Strike Eagle can be called in to kill any target I see. In that case, it's what I've got on station to take out this infantry because my Lancer's dead. Otherwise, I probably would have called in the Lancer. So we soften that up, and then we're going to go into these little birds. Which, unfortunately, the units that did survive are the Manpads. And the GRU, the Spetsnaz GRU there, also has a Stinger, so they're going to pretty easily deal with these killer eggs. I think the killer eggs managed to take out one of the enemy infantries there, one of the Stingers, but yeah, it's not great for them. At this point, I was calling another Strike Eagle, maybe for them, but I see a priority target back here, or a target of opportunity. I noticed that there's a couple of launchers back there together, right, and then some up here as well, like a whole bunch of shit. So, at first I'm going for a more conservative strike that probably gets the Eagle, or, you know, has a chance of getting the Eagle out, but I see that some of it gets taken out already by my team. And I end up just going really greedy. I'm like, okay, I think I saw a couple of supply dumps, right? Must be why I'm doing this. And the Gru's going to trying to get me the Stinger. And, you know, the pilot's not really getting out of this one. I should have pre-flared again. But we do like the strike. We do kind of trade that pilot's life very dearly there. But we take out we strike a very annoying blow against the enemy, you know? Like, that's very unfun if you're on the receiving end of that, to have all your shit blow up at once from one little strike. It's gonna piss you off. It's also gonna make it harder for you to get your shit running again. So, you know, it's a nice little strike. Now, I've got a bit of travel time here, I think, so while we've got it... Oh, but before we get into that too, I'll say, pre-flaring. I didn't mention this in the last video, but I included a text caption about it afterwards. Pre-flaring is a thing in this game where the aircraft will flare automatically when a missile threat is coming towards them. But they will not pre-flare, and pre-flaring is good, because whenever a missile is rolled at an aircraft, it will have a worse chance to hit based on how many flares are currently active off that aircraft. And those flares last for, like, I don't know if it's 3 or 5 seconds, but they last for a little bit of a while. But you can only drop so many flares a second. So you want to have as many flares up as possible when the missile is launched, because then they roll a, like, miss chance for every flare, I think. So if you have 5 flares up, which I think is the max, if you have 5 flares up already when the missile is launched at you, it has to roll against all 5 of those flares independently, I think. And then, as the missile is traveling between the launcher and you have time to launch more flares, which is even more, you know, distraction rolls to try and have the missile spoof. And you see with some of these aircraft, the auto flares are not happening in time because the missile is too close, or just in general, you know, pre-flaring would be better. And I'm missing out. So, like, when I was helicopter landing on the island on H-point in the last video, or there with the F-15, I need to actually get into the habit of spamming flares. And I haven't done it at all. I haven't even thought about it until after the matches were over and I talked to people about it. But knowing how it works now, yeah, manual flaring actually could up the survivability of my units hugely, so something to consider. Now, before we get into any more comment, hopefully, the Milsim thing, what I meant by it was, you know, people were saying stuff like, you know, SOF infantry doctrinally are, you know, not for frontal assaults and stuff in my comments, and it's very obvious when you look at it that way, but I think over, you know, probably 10 plus years of Milsim nerdery for me at this point, I kind of learned at a certain point as I got older, it's very fun to try and apply real-world military logic and tactics to these kinds of games, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, it wasn't always the best idea, you know, because games are games, they're not real life, and, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you've really got to look at it through the game's lens, and that's still true here, but, I think it provides some value for me to probably give in and let myself be a little bit more Milsimy again in how I think about this game, because this game has very immersive mechanics. It feels very authentic, and because of that, you can often, you know, apply a lot of real-world logic to this game. And you don't have to, but it kind of helps me as a shorthand. So I think I might try to do, as a habit to stop making mistakes in the future, is go, oh, you know, when I'm going to do a move in this game, talk it out to myself and see if it makes sense in my head, you know, in kind of a real-life term. It's like, in the last video, I could have gone, okay, you know, I'm going to take my Special Operations Infantry and make a, you know, frontal assault into the enemy's strongest point on the map. And when it fails, I'm going to do it again. You know, like, if I said that to myself before I did that the first time on the C point in the last video, that might have made me go, hey, that doesn't sound right. And you know, I'm thinking maybe that's something I can do as just an easy habit that works with how my brain works, to quickly realize, even when I'm under pressure, even when I'm tunnel visioned, you know, my brain should just, like, on instinct, I'm enough of a milsim nerd to trip that flag and go, hey, that sounds wrong, rather than looking at it in a purely video game sense of, like, okay, these infantry are pretty good, I'm going to send them in, you know, to here, and we'll work it out. So I'm gonna try that. I'm building up a lot of little habits in a notepad, basically, that I'm gonna try to use to trick myself into being better under pressure when the game comes out. I look forward to trying them out. Good timing, because we're getting back into a little bit of action here. I'm bringing in a Soar Blackhawk with some cargo and tows. Blackhawk is taken out, but it's low enough that the tows barrel roll out, because if the helicopter is really low, like it's almost finished its landing, you do get to have your infantry survive, just like if they were an APC on the ground. These tows barrel roll out of the exploding Blackhawk and instantly start, like, hip-firing their tows like Rambo, which I love. It's unfortunate that they're right next to each other so that they take shared damage from the tanks there. And that yak bombs the truck, and the truck lives, Chad truck. So those tows are in a little bit of trouble now. But meanwhile, we got stuff over here on the left as well. Rangers Roars ambushing from the woods takes out a truck with 2 SF Russian squads inside it. Unfortunately, for the Rangers Roars there, because that is not a happy Kinder Surprise. That is going to beat the Rangers Roars. That's a Spetsnaz GRU, and I don't know what the other one is. BMF? No, I don't know what the other one is. Razvedka or something? BDV? I don't know. Those guys are pretty tough. You know, they're hurting those Rangers Recon there too. The Spetsnaz GRU is still pretty full health, but the VDV, I think it is there. Whatever it is, they're doing all right, or they're pretty fucked up. Sorry. There's more light vehicles coming in here, Typhoons and such from the Russian team. We do get to finish off that little Spetsnaz units there, or that little SF unit. Unfortunately, I leave my Brutuses in place and they get cruise missiled. The Russian team's been pretty happy to use those cruise missiles this match, so I gotta keep moving. I'm going to try and have these Rangers cross the street. One of my problems here right now, I lose Rangers Recon there, unfortunately. One of my problems here now is I haven't got enough room to move all my units up together without squishing them together and getting cluster bombed, or, I mean, you know, hit with AoE bombs. I try to run the Spetsnaz, try to Rangers Recon on top of the Spetsnaz GRU there, to get in on close range, to stop them from using any kind of long-range weapons on me. In the end, though, I think the Spetsnaz GRU don't have anything like that for anti-infantry, I'm not sure. But I wasn't that familiar with the unit yet. I was still figuring it out. And in this case, they're just going to end up losing to those Rangers, and especially once I bring in this special tactics team there on the side, they're super screwed. But I am risking being very clustered now, so a napalm or artillery or bomb strike on me here, it could do horrible things to me. I've got to spread out more. It's another thing, another habit. I think I mentioned in the last video that I'm going to try to work on on release is the habit of, like, recon vanguard line, muscle line, and weapon support, long-range weapon support line. And then probably like a reserve line behind of supplies and reserve units. And I'm going to try to play to that a bit more, not just to have multiple lines of defense, but so that it's easier for me to know what I want to engage with at any given time and not cluster. Because you can see here how I basically just got this big blob of, like, fucking infantry. And I can uncluster it, but it's very haphazard. It's just me going like, okay, let's, you know, pick that unit and move it here. And if I put them in their own numbered groups instead, like all Vanguard Recon on number 1, all Muscle on group 2, all Weapons on group 3, it'll be easier for me to see, okay, let's just get these 3 lines going. Fortunately, my supply drop there gets taken out. Not sure what that was from. Was that from an errant grenade launcher round? Was that from an artillery? I didn't see what hit that. Maybe myself? Cruise missiles come in and take out a Rangers Recon from me, I think. But my Rangers sprint on top of the grenade launcher teams. Again, when you're fighting these weapons teams, any heavy weapon tends to have a minimum range. So Rangers at long range against those two grenade launcher teams probably loses. But Rangers at close range, we sprint on top of them. And it's worth it because we basically turn off their grenade launchers and those guys are fucked. Very nice thing to know, that kind of CQC advantage. If you're a fantasy fan or if you're like a D&D fan or something, it's like those rule sets where if you engage an archer or a mage in melee range, like they can't really do their range shit anymore, like it fucks them up. Like the grenade launcher teams are trying to roll concentration saves there, you know? It's good for us. It's very good to engage those kinds of teams in knife fights. Because units like Rangers and CQB units like Rangers Recon and Delta, they don't have anything that doesn't work in close quarters. And in fact, that's what makes Delta... It's part of what makes Delta so good, is not only do they have so much damage, but even their machine guns, they're light machine guns, so they work in close quarters. Unlike, for instance, a medium machine gun or an HMG, which would not work inside a building in this game. In this game, you know, Delta Force, every weapon they have down there, when we select their weapons pane again, they all work in close quarters, except maybe the grenade launcher, but... I don't know, I'm not sure if they have special grenade launchers that work in buildings. It'd be fucking funny if they did, but, I'm not sure about that. But everything else works in close quarters, I'm sure. And that's a big advantage for them. And we roll a bit of sudden death there. As you might have noticed, we're kind of just, you know, we're having a little bit of resistance from that convoy of Russian infantry that was coming up the road. But we were able to ambush that and basically sweep aside all further resistance around the H-point. And now set up our own infantry ahead of it in the woods. I need to get some more infantry power up with those Rangers' roars to avoid repeats of what happened last time. But other than that, things aren't too bad. We're bringing in a big bomb strike on this road. You can hear it again. I'm starting to get into the habit now. I think it's a good habit for this game of like talking like a milsim nerd, of being like, okay, yeah, we engaged the enemy, we ambushed their light convoy of light vehicles, we swept aside resistance. I don't know if it makes me sound fucking lame, but I actually think it's more than just cosplay for this game. I think it does help you think a bit better for the way this game works, so I probably will be doing it more. Hopefully no one finds it insufferable. Back in my armor days when I was 10 years younger and I played a lot more armor. Maybe I can remember some of the lingo that helps. It's not a bad bombing run there from the Lancer. It could have hit more, but it hit enough, I think, to justify itself. A few units to get off the road before it got there, but it got enough to be kind of worth it. One problem here with my comp is I was saying before I need my anti-infantry over my Rangers' roars. It's the same in reverse. My roars are not with my anti-infantry. My deltas actually have like nothing to fight that simple K-15 there. That little wheeled IFE. K-17, sorry. And because of that, like, I literally need to call in like a strike eagle here to try and save them. Like, there's like fucking 24 guys in Delta Force here. There's not a fucking AT launcher to their name, essentially. And they're on the radio like, we need a fucking close air support, because there's like one thing with wheels and a gun here, and it has like 60 millimeters of kinetic armor, and we can't deal with it. Please bomb it. But end of the day, we can start bringing over the Rangers' roars. They'll deal with it, even though the Strike Eagle didn't. Strike Eagle did get a bunch of other stuff there. Unfortunately, the enemy does bring in some napalm on me as well. But what really matters here, yeah, is I think... Oh god, they're gonna die to the VDV Spetsnaz. What really matters here is more that, like, yeah, I need to keep my units together. And it is a thing with SOF infantry more than any infantry. You know, I was just kind of spreading fuckers out everywhere, trying not to be too clustered, and, you know, I'm like, oh, let's have the bazookas on the road, or watching the road. But especially with SOF more than any other Dex infantry, I think, you have to be careful to keep your specialized teams in a way where they can work together, and, you know, not accidentally run your rocket launcher teams ahead of your other teams, for instance. They need to be ready to react and support your teams, because your guys like Delta are so strong, but they just can't deal vehicles. They can't at all. They can't do it. Anyway, we're going to take the H point back and put that sudden death timer back on for controlling all the points. I'm going to say, no, you know what, we did like it when we were winning. Let's do that again. Seriously, one AT4 would have saved us like 2 minutes there. Or like 2 AT4s would have killed that boomerang. Fucking hell, like a Browning, a medium machine gun or heavy machine gun would have fixed that. But we get there in the end. That one guy in Delta really needs to be resupplied. But these other guys, these other 7 guys in Delta, half health? No, more like half fucking hungry? I don't know. They want to go kill, man. They don't want to resupply. They're like, okay, cool. Metis, bam. Kill that. Fuck you. Let's get into the woods. We saw prey over here. I'm still like, this is like the 3rd match in the row of me like running around killing shit with Delta. I think. So I'm very like eager with the Delta at this point. Just be like, oh, red infantry, run at it. Sprint on top of it and just eat it. We got some more BTRs coming down the road. That is not a thing Delta wants to eat. Rangers Roars can deal with it. I'm trying to check there if they'll shoot over the forest. We will see in a second. I'm not sure if they do. I think they should have the line of sight once they get in range. I'm just waiting to see them get in range. I think there are only 3 guys in that squad. They won't last long enough against both of them, but unfortunately they dislodge their infantry just before they come into Roars range, I think. So close. But instead we get our artillery on. Haven't been doing a lot of artillery this match. Haven't really needed to. It's been very light contact from the enemy. Definitely worked in the favor of my... Oh, those Marine Raiders getting taken out by that cruise missile. Definitely worked in my favor of, like, my light SOF here. That I faced pretty light resistance. It felt like the enemy was very light on the ground. And in a second, they're going to say they had some desync and they want to, you know, basically concede out the match. And I wonder how much that was a part of it, or if it was... I don't know when their desync started, if they really did have some. I'm not sure if they were sure if they did or not. Or if it was just that they just didn't commit to a ground game. Because if we're seeing different things... Unfortunately, those guys get spotted finally. If we're seeing different things here, it makes it pretty hard for them to do anything, of course. It's just a bug game. But I don't know at what point that might have happened for them. And assuming it wasn't, you know, until quite recently when, you know, a second ago they're about to call it. I think maybe they just went too heavy on air and gimmicks. Because, like, it was a really, like, cool bowl opening with the nuke. Like, that basically would have just won them E point and all the other middle points, really. If they had followed it up stronger, but it felt like they never really did. And just analyzing it, just to get, you know, glean insight out of it. It definitely felt like they didn't have enough come in after the nuke. I think they probably invested in all that helicopter strike, and then that, basically. They're talking about the desync. That didn't leave them much else. Delta does get killed there, not enough guys left. And yeah, they tell us they had some desync, which is a shame. But also, unless the desync was like really early on, the game was looking pretty sewn up as well. So it's not too bad. It's not like we're in the middle of like a pitch battle and the game bugged, you know? It seems alright. But I don't know. I don't know if any of them have a perspective of this one or how bad a desync was. But I can only say from my perspective, it's a fun little SOF game. Running through the woods, shooting people, learning more about the units. You know, as always, seen a lot of things I could have done way better in the engagements. I think rewatching this one in particular was great for me to see things I could have done better on the micro scale of how to take some of those engagements, like some situations where you know, maybe it was, I think, a bit too impatient to turn off my hold fire and start shooting earlier on when we were over here in these woods on the E point. You know, some situations where I could have microed my deltas to be stronger when they were, rather than chasing down those SPGs and running out of steam and basically dying, I could have fell back into the smoke and resupplied them and stuff. A lot of those little things which, you know, you learn, and it's kind of a game sense for how to play situations because you played them before. And rewatching this one, I think, was just mainly me paying a bit more attention to that kind of stuff and the stuff we talked about, and learning little micro lessons from that kind of stuff, I guess. What's a major lesson from here? I don't know. What's the major lesson from this one? I try to, even when, you know, maybe it's not like the most dramatic match, I'd say we should try to, like, take away some kind of lesson. Let me pause my playback. That we can. I mean, what's the defining factor of this match? What defined everything? You would have thought it'd be that nuke with their good opening. But in the end, I don't know, like, it's hard to say about knowing, you know, when their desync struck, but I can only speak about it not knowing and just talk about it as the game I played. You know, they made like one push in afterwards onto the nuke, but it just never felt like they had enough. They had like this like bunch of infantry that was very easily kind of eaten up by my SOF infantry. They did bring in some tanks and stuff, but I think my teammates were doing a great job obliterating it with their strikers and helicopters and aircraft and stuff. They felt very, very artillery and air heavy in the mid-game with those cruise missile helicopters and those napalm grads and stuff. But it just didn't seem like they had enough muscle. It definitely didn't feel like they had enough recon on me. I think a lot of their strikes felt blind. They were just shooting where they saw me engaging them from. And that allowed me to just own the woods. They never made any kind of commitment in the middle of the map. Which just allowed me to just like a green highway, just walk between the forests over to the other side of the map and just start playing over there too. I like that from my side, that I got to help the team take back the E point, leave it to them, and then go do something else. I think that's fun. I love the mobility of the SOF, that you get your sprint cooldown back so much quicker, so you can kind of just stay really fast on the move in these woods. You can use that sprint to speed up your travel time quite a bit. I think the biggest thing for me to take away about my own play, rewatching this one, was have more organization and thought to the line. We basically just made like a murder blob of SOF, and they were kind of in the wrong order again in places. And we just made a big blob, and we went and murder blobbed over to the city on the left. And in that way, I guess I ended up being kind of a flex player, where I had two of my teammates fighting over the right side, two of my teammates fighting over the left side, and I ended up just getting to be the flex who was never threatened in the middle because the pressure was on my enemies to focus my other teammates who were fighting over the points themselves. I just got to slip between in the woods and come and fuck up all the fights. And maybe the fights would have been more balanced without me there. But because I'm that special source to come in and start fucking them up, they're already in trouble and under pressure because they're dealing with my teammates, and then I just come into the SOF and be like, you're dead now. Very satisfying, very fun to do. It feels, very easy in hindsight. It feels, or watching it back, it's just like, oh, the fucking SOF just walked through the woods and just kind of won and killed everything for about 30 minutes. But I guess in practice, that's the reason why, is I was never the one under pressure. If you look back at this match, actually, now that I think of it, I don't think I'm ever attacked until I try to hold the point closest to their spawn as we're doing sudden death on them, right? Like, when we go to the left and we take those points from them, that's the only time where I'm the one not with the initiative. I'm the one being attacked and I'm the defender. And that is the point where I start taking most of my losses as well. That's what you pay for holding ground. But I think that's interesting, and again, I think it's just like they were so heavy on gimmicks because they're also one of their players is doing like that SOF drop behind our MSR on our reinforcement route on the left. I was like, that's cool, but it didn't seem to busy us for too long. And meanwhile, there just wasn't much muscle in their front line. So maybe a bit too special forces from them on this match. And yeah, from me, just spread out more. Go in with a better plan, as I will on release, of how I'm going to organize my force as a larger force. Just like, maybe thinking in a more milsim nerd-brained way about this game might help, be a shortcut for those of us more into this kind of shit already to play better in this game. Maybe also, I had a point, and it was going to sound great, and I've completely dropped the ball. What the fuck was I saying before this? That was it, that's what I was saying. It's just like it probably pays to be a bit more milsim-brained on what you're actually doing of the units. I think it also probably pays to do that in terms of preparing for the matches. Kind of like how I've been doing those force composition charts for myself, which, laugh at them perhaps if they look a bit too sweaty and too goofy. But they do really help me personally in playing this game, in thinking of things in terms of elements rather than just single units. Because it's... Okay, so someone said this to me in my Discord, and I think I think it's actually, they gave me some source of it being true, of kind of like this magic number of most people, when you're organizing things, can usually control up to like 3 to 6 elements at once, right? Something like that. Like, grain of salt. I'm just throwing out something I heard from someone else. And the way that's relevant here is I might have 4 to 6 units that I want to bring in for just one, little task force group, because combined arms, you need to bring a lot of things to do different jobs, but they still need to work together. And so if I'm thinking of all of those as individuals, I'm at my limit already of what I can micro. But if I think of that entire group as its own element and give it broader orders, and I'm kind of like practiced enough to, maybe those broader orders are like, I actually am doing 3 lines of orders there, a Vanguard Recon, an Assault, muscle, and a weapons group with AA and stuff. Maybe I'm still giving 3 clicks, but I'm still thinking of it in terms of like, that is a single body, that is a single organism that I just have to click 3 times to space them out the way in a certain formation that I know is right. If I think of it in that way, I can go from controlling those 6 units smartly to controlling 3 to 6 groups like that, of, 3 to 6 units each. It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, but for tactics. And so that is something that I want to be thinking of as well, is moving, you try not to think of every unit on the fly, coming up with my strategy on the fly and being like, oh, I need 1 more AA here, or maybe I need another artillery. I'd be more like, no, I've planned this. When I go in, I'm going to bring 2 SHORADs, 2 recon, 3 line infantry, transport supplies. This is what I do every time. And by making it standardized and disciplined and doctrine like that, it's going to be my instinct rather than me having to think on the fly, and I think it'll help me a ton. And it has already, so I know it will. Yeah, so... interesting, huh? This is one of those games maybe I can nerd out about a lot. Be a little fucking milsim freak. We'll see. We'll see, but I always try to only do it in a way that helps the game and not just for cosplay purposes. Otherwise, you end up... Well, you could end up being like, you know, certain armor groups that maybe people make fun of. But hey, you know, if you enjoy that also, good for you. No, not trying to offend any of my Milsim Arma viewer fans who perhaps like to walk around and do patrols for... I don't know, I always heard this story about an armor group where they would go on patrol missions for like up to 5 hours, and sometimes nothing would even happen because it was realistic. And I guess if you like talking to the people in your group, it's just a hangout. That's fun, you know? I guess that's fun, but, well, we made fun of it at the time. But hey, I'm older now. To each their own. Anyway, that was a tangent of all tangents. I'm going to wrap up for now because I've got nothing good left to say by the sound of it. So, GG. Of course, there's always things I forget in these reviews as well, and the comments always bring up some great insight, so I look forward to reading your comments as always. I try to reply to all of them when I can, or all the ones that need a reply. I'll catch you guys next time for another SOF one, though we're coming up to an SOF and armored deck next. I don't want to overhype it, but I think it's actually my favorite match from all of the 3 nights. It's on the snow map. A castle is involved, and it's pretty fucking cool. I do like the next match quite a lot, and so I really look forward to reviewing it for you, hopefully really soon. Until then, though, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks, as always, for watching. I'm really glad people enjoy this format. I can't wait to do more of it on release. And yeah, catch you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye-bye.